Yeah, and welcome to another magic session. Because we finished with the Lizardmen and Beastmen, now we're moving on to back to do some magic, and there's even a new law of magic. Yes, rune magic does count as a law of magic, and we will be covering it today. I should actually probably change the title real quick to what it is we're doing. Teaching. There you go. I'll have to remember to put in the title which laws we're doing, because nobody made a list. Nobody made any preparations for this one. This one was just out of the blue. They've got to think about which laws I haven't done yet. You know what? Little War, Big War? That seems like a good spot to start with. Little War and Big War. Who doesn't like the War magic? Starting off with the Little War, which for those of you who don't know, Little War and Big War are two laws of magic unique to the greenskin race only. The Little War, of course, coming with the, if we take a look at the casters of the greenskins, there he is. Little War coming with the Night Goblin Shaman, exclusively, and the Goblin Great Shaman. And the Big War coming with WAAAAGH and the Orc Shaman. If we take a look at the Little War first, starting off with the cheap buff spell that every Law of Magic pretty much has, starting off with Sticky Stabbing. Plus 24 melee attack, plus 25% armor piercing damage. Pretty good buff. I mean, plus 24 melee attack for 4 Winds of Magic is pretty good, especially when it lasts 28 seconds. Oh no, wait, that's the recharge. 19 seconds. Ignore me. A 19-second 24 melee attack buff, that's pretty solid when you compare it to, like, it's your basic buff spell. I mean, if you look at Harmonic Convergence, that's the better one than compared to Little War, but that's 6 Winds of Magic, and this is only 4. And the casting effect, briefly going over that, of the Little War, is, I believe it reduces, basically it steals magic from the enemy. So every time you cast, the enemy will have less magic to use. So it's definitely one of those passives that you want to keep on and you want to try and get off as much as possible. And then you can do that quite easily with these 4 Winds of Magic spells. It's a single target, there's no overcast. Some spells just don't have overcasts, don't ask me why. Don't ask me why some have and some don't. Just the way the game's made, unfortunately. I wish there was an overcast Sticky Stabbing, like an AoE effect, but just a single target. So you just plonk it on, really, just whenever it's off cooldown, you should be using it. Like throw it on a single unit of Orc Boys in the front line, or just any unit that hasn't got the best melee attack. Like, obviously if you've got something that already has 100 melee attack, like Grimgore, you probably don't need to give him more melee attack. But it's a solid 4 Winds of Magic buff. Always want to bring it with you. It's good for triggering that passive. Pretty good. Another pretty cheap spell. This is the Magic Missile of the Law. Vindictive Glare. It's a pretty solid, fast-moving magic missile. It's not as fast-moving as Fireball and doesn't do quite as much damage, but the trade-off is it's cheaper. Like Fireball is 5 Winds of Magic, and this one's only 4. It moves pretty quick. It fires off a couple of missiles. I've noticed its accuracy can sometimes be a bit off, but usually it's mostly the Big War one that we'll talk about later with its accuracy. But this one is typical. It doesn't have the greatest against armor, so typically you'd use this to snipe at casters or snipe at low armored lords. So say you've got the Sisters of Twilight flying around on their eagle, being really annoying, just keep firing off these at them. They have their physical resistance that gets ignored by this, and it's pretty solid damage. We'll take a look at the exact values when we look at some replays, or we'll take a look at the spells in game so we can see exactly how much damage they do. But just starting off, it's again a pretty decent target. If you're going up against a faction that you think you're going to have to deal with lightly armored single entities, like Wood Elves for example, then bring this. But obviously if you're going against the Dwarves, you don't probably want to bring this. Overcasting it makes it way more armor piercing, but even then still against the Dwarves, and the fact that you have to overcast it and it costs 7 Winds of Magic for it to be basically more armor piercing. And it's not even completely armor piercing. It's better. It's definitely a lot better against armor, but it's not 100% armor piercing. Then again, nothing is really. So, but typically you don't want to be bringing a spell specifically for its overcast. You want to be thinking about its base version as well. And in that scenario, you really only want to be thinking about lightly armored lords and casters that you can be sniping off. High elves come to mind. Even vampire counts don't have the heaviest armored lords, and you can just keep whittling them down bit by bit. So it's a pretty solid magic missile, depending on your situation. I'd say bring it. Depends on the situation. Next is a debuff Hex AoE. I think it's an AoE. Yeah, it's an AoE, area of effect. Lasts 24 seconds. It's a reduction to speed. It basically cuts their speed by half. It also reduces their charge bonus by a bit. So you can use this on like the front line, or like where there's I think the best situation for this is a moving cav blob, because some people forget that hexes can actually be stuck to an enemy unit. You can plant it on the ground alone, or you can stick it to the enemy unit and it will move with that unit. So definitely the best situation for this is you plant it on the enemy's cav stack, and its speed is just hampered entirely, and that gives you more time to shoot it, that gives you more time to get a counter charge or whatever it is you need to do. But it is a bit of a weird one in the greenskin roster as a whole. It's huge speed, like half speed buffs like this are a bit out of there. Like even the net, when it comes to old WAAAAGH's special net ability, they seem a bit out of place because they don't have quite the same firepower that other factions have available to, like guns or artillery that's decent. So it's a bit out of place, but definitely has its uses. If you're really worried about the cav flanking potential, or you know your enemy is going to bring a very focused cav stack that's going to move around quite a bit, it's probably worth taking. But honestly, I'd say it's probably the worst spell of these ones in this lore. Not bad, it just has much more limited uses, just because how it's a bit weird in its faction and everything. And 7 Winds of Magic is like nearly twice as expensive as these two, so you could just be popping off these two way more than this one, and you're guaranteed to get some usage out of these two. This one isn't going to give you a lot in the long run. Itchy Nuisance, another AoE hex. This is basically the reverse of Sneaky Stabbing, dropping an AoE. It's similar to, very similar to Soul Blight, except from instead of dropping, if we take a look at Soul Blight, instead of dropping armor piercing and armor, it drops melee attack, which is better. Basically, this is better than Soul Blight, because most of the time 30 armor compared to 24 melee attack, you typically want to drop the 24 melee attack instead. This does cost 1 more, but for 25 seconds, if you can, again, if you're up against some sort of heavy blob, or the enemy is going to like really tight formation, that you want to hit as many units as possible with this spell. And if you can hit like all the units that are in combat, if they lose this damage output, because this is a huge damage output, 24 melee attack and 30% less base weapon damage, which if they're not AP, that's like 30% less damage overall. It can be a huge impact, and it can basically mean that your orc boys, which typically take damage pretty quick, like greenskin infantry doesn't last very long. It does a lot of damage really quickly, but it doesn't usually stick around for long, so the fact that this can make it actually hold out a lot longer can be pretty helpful in those situations. But of course, if you're only hitting like 1 unit with this, it's probably not worth it for 8 Winds of Magic. You might just be better off just increasing the melee attack of your own units and hoping you can just kill them faster. But by no means it's a bad spell. Pretty good overall. Worth taking if you have those situations where you're worried about your infantry getting killed a bit too quickly. Maybe against dwarves you can stack like that melee attack down to really low. I mean, dwarves won't do like any damage, and hopefully you can kill them a lot quicker as well. So not bad at all. I'd say you take this most of the time because it's just a good hex, but this one is like probably the one you always take in terms of the Little WAAAAGH lore. Next, Night Shroud, a pretty unique spell. Very unique, in fact. I think there's a spell that's like this. There's some abilities in that, but in terms of Winds of Magic spells, this is pretty much unique. It's a AoE buff that applies to all units in range, all friendly units in range. It lasts 41 seconds, and it gives them Stalk and Unspottable. So basically it gives them all Smoke Bomb for 41 seconds, which if you've seen the Coatl recently being in use, it definitely has its purposes. If you're trying to sneak up and avoid artillery fire, say you've got a big Arachnarok spider and you don't want it to get destroyed by cannon fire before it even reaches the front line, boom, just give it Stalk and Unspottable, and it's going to last for way longer, and it's going to be at full health when it actually reaches the front line. It definitely has its uses, but it's very situational, because if your enemy hasn't got something, like, unless you've got some really good flanking potential, like you've got some really fast moving units that you want to flank really sneakily and get behind and open up all these weak points, if you've got all those planned out in your head, then there can definitely be some fun applications for this spell. But the primary use is probably just to avoid getting hit by ranged fire, be that artillery or maybe even like handgunners, because Unspottable usually means you have to be very close in order to be spotted. And so you can usually get within like half a handgunner's unit's range before they'll even see you. So it's pretty good at avoiding range fire. Overcasting it increases it by double the amount of time, which if you're on a big map and takes a while for your front line to get there, then it just means you're going to last the whole time. Granted, it is 17 Winds of Magic, so you better hope that the enemy has like 3 cannons if you're using this spell, because you want to make sure you're avoiding the most damage possible for that kind of magic amount. Can get very expensive if you overcast it. But it definitely has its applications. You just need to consider like if you're up against dwarves and you're bringing a giant, and it's a huge map, say like Alpine Ridge or something. If you take a look at the MP maps maybe, or if you're in a 3v3, you could do some sneaky tactics with it. But say you're on a huge map like MP Crossroads and you're up against dwarves and you're bringing a giant. That giant's going to get probably destroyed before it can reach the front lines. You absolutely want to give it stalk and unspottable so that it can't get torn to pieces on the approach. Pretty key to a lot of strategies when it comes to dealing with missile units if you're planning on bringing large. Most of the time, when you're doing as greenskins, you can just go like full infantry rush against ranged heavy factions, but this gives you the opportunity to actually bring some large units because you know you can hide them from the enemy. So definitely worth bringing in some situations. Next is the Vortex spell. Pretty unique Vortex spell in the fact that it applies a debuff. I don't know if this debuff has friendly fire, but if we just take a look at it, it's strength wise, it's not quite as strong as say like a burning vortex, a flamestorm, or a purple sun, but it is only 11 winds of magic, so that's probably to be expected. It's decent damage. It's not amazing, but again, its main uniqueness is that it comes with the nasty cursed, which lasts for 22 seconds, which is pretty long for a debuff, and it reduces armor and melee defense. I don't know if this applies to friendly units. I'll have to test that out actually just now when we have a look at it in action, just to see whether or not that stacks, because if it doesn't like affect your own units, then in that case you can just throw that on the front line and you can basically use this as a hex. If it hits enough units, it's doing damage and it's also reducing armor and melee defense, which are the two stats you really want to reduce as greenskins, because if you reduce these two stats, you melt through like anything and everything that your infantry touches. Because there isn't a lot of AP in terms of infantry on the greenskin roster, and there isn't a ton of you don't want to be in a battle of attrition with greenskin infantry, so reducing that melee defense can be huge. And there's definitely some applications where you can just throw like a big old single entity model like an Iraq rock into a group of infantry and then just watch as everything gets debuffed around this. And again, it's only 11 winds of magic. Overcasting it increases the duration by 44 seconds, and it should be noted that also increases the debuff by twice the amount, which 44 seconds for a debuff of this sort of like substance is really good. For 16 winds of magic, that's a really good debuff to apply on, even if it's just like 2 units. If you hit 2 units with that, as long as those 2 units end up in melee, you're definitely getting your value, ignoring any damage it does. It's a pretty unique vortex spell. Typically it's overlooked because like Foot of Gork exists in the Big War, and this isn't great for its damage outputs per se, but it definitely has its uses if you're bringing a Little War. If you're bringing only Little War, I'd almost always suggest bringing this vortex spell. It's really good. Really, really good. And it also reduces speed by 25%. That's another little buff they can give. So yeah, Little War, a very supportive focused, as you can tell, very support focused. We got debuffs, we got buffs, we got debuffs, buffs. The only thing that's direct damage really is Vindictive Glare, which even then is just for sort of sniping off support characters. So Little War overall is a very supportive and hex-based role. It's mainly to be focused with buffing up your own infantry and making just everything worse on the enemy side. Even the Vortex has a hex attached to it. But it's a pretty decent Lore of Magic. When greenskins only have access to 2, like, well actually they have 3, they have Lore of Death now as well, but it's pretty good. Definitely has its usage in a lot of matchups, and it's quite fun to bring. The Curse of the Bad Moon is quite a fun little animation, and Night Shroud definitely has some very fun potential, so pretty good lore overall, not to mention the passive effect. Also, who doesn't love to steal the enemy's magic? That's the best part. Onto the Big War, because the Little War was too small for you. Gaze of Mork, starting off with, again, a magic missile. Very similar to the Little War one, weak against armor, except I've noticed this one doesn't have as good sort of accuracy as the Vindictive Glare. It can sometimes go over a place, especially if the target's very far away. But like it says, it's mainly focused against large combatants, because if you hit all of it hits, it does a good chunk of damage. It does more damage, I think, than Sneaky Stabbing. But I mean, Vindictive Glare, but it doesn't have the same accuracy. Overcasting it just increases the cast range, so it doesn't actually increase damage. It's just if you want to hit a target twice as far away. You see there, the range normally is 250 meters. Increasing it here increases it to 400 meters from the target. And again, yeah, magic missile, weak against armor still. So typically you're firing it off just at your average sort of lightly armored caster or lord. Another thing to note, while we're briefly talking about the Big WAAAAGH, is technically speaking, there's two casting effects that you can get with this. Obviously the basic one, the passive one, is that it just gives you increase the power recharge rate, so you're going to be getting your Winds of Magic quicker every time you cast, which just means you're going to run out quicker, basically. It's not an amazing Winds of Magic ability. It's really good for... It suits the greenskin playstyle because you're using up all your magic really quickly, and then you're just doing as much damage as quickly as possible. But then if you reach a certain point that you've run out of magic and you've run out of fighting power, then you've really lost in the late game if you've run out of steam. So it's an interesting... If you're going for a very rush focused, it's definitely worth taking, but otherwise you can usually just take it off and not notice much of a difference. But the real uniqueness with WAAAAGH casting effects, WAAAAGH is of course a big WAAAAGH caster with all the big WAAAAGH spells, and he has access to the Boneward Staff, which is insanely good. It basically gives a passive casting effect that every time you cast, you give every allied unit on the map plus 12 melee attack and plus 20% charge bonus, which is a lot. This is by far the best casting effect, passive casting effect in the game, I think. It definitely is, especially if you take into consideration 4v4s or 3v3s, giving all of your allies 12 melee attack for 17 seconds every time you cast, which is pretty much constantly. If you're just using Gaze of Mork constantly, you can have a constant plus 12 melee attack to everything. It's really good, and is one of the reasons why WAAAAGH is just such a good caster. Although we'll come into later some of the more expensive spells it doesn't really mix very well with, but if you're just going to be spamming Gaze of Mork the entire game, this pairs very well, and it's important to, if you're bringing WAAAAGH, it's always important to keep this in mind when you're using it in combination with the WAAAAGH lore. Right, next on to Brainbuster, Burster, yeah, Brainburster. That's a greenskin handwriting, or grammar. That's the same. Not the best. It is basically an explosion spell. It's very similar to what else have we covered? That I think we did Lore of Life. It's very similar to Awakening of the Woods, except for it does way more damage. I mean, say way more. Awakening of the Woods doesn't do that much damage, anyways. So it's not like Brainbuster does a lot of damage. It just does decent damage for its cost. 7 Winds of Magic, and it's mainly focused against lightly armoured, very similar to a lot of explosive spells. It's really only to be used against lightly armoured targets. Good against ethereal units, of course, for obvious reasons. That it causes moderate magic damage, and has a big area of effect. It can hit like an entire unit most of the time, even multiple units if you have them stacked up. It's the perfect situation to use them. Overcasting it basically makes it do way more AP damage, so it actually does do damage against armored targets, which for 10 Winds of Magic it does do a sizable amount of damage, and it casts very quickly. Assuming the enemy is standing still, this is basically unavoidable. It has a very quick casting time, and you can't really move out of way of it very quickly at all. So it's pretty decent. I'd recommend taking it almost all the time with this lore book. I don't think there's any situation, except for maybe against like dwarves or chaos, where you think there's going to be a lot of heavy armor. Then maybe it's not always used, because you do have to take in mind the base spell before you start thinking about the overcast. But as a whole, it's pretty good. It's by no means a bad explosion spell, and it's probably worth taking in almost every big WAAAAGH caster. And again, it's only 7 Winds of Magic, which is not as cheap as 4, but 7 Winds of Magic, you can still get that Boneward Staff trigger off quite a bit if you're using WAAAAGH. Definitely worth bringing with WAAAAGH, especially if you have, because the fact that the minimum casting distance was removed. This means you can just, if WAAAAGH gets stuck in some infantry, you can just cast this on himself. He'll take like no damage, and all the infantry around him will get like blown away. So, really good spell to pair with like any caster, even just a basic Orc Shaman caster on a boar. If he gets stuck, you can just blow up everything around him, and it works out pretty well. Overcast, more damage, just a decent explosion spell overall. Next, Fist of Gorg. A pretty unique spell for the... Actually, it's not so unique anymore. I was about to say, this used to be the only spell in the Greenskin roster that used to give magic damage, but now that old Aspect of the Dread Knight has got that as well, it's not as unique. But although it is unique still in the fact that it's the only way I think Greenskins can increase their melee defense. I think it's the only spell or ability that actually increases melee defense in the Greenskin roster, so there is that. And it's basically, if you can see, you'll notice a pretty similarity with another spell we've covered before. Where is it? harmonic convergence. Where are you? Where is harmonic? I forget which lore it's in. There it is. I went over it already. So yeah, if we compare it to harmonic convergence, so this is 6 Winds of Magic, 22-second duration, 24, and then we compare that to Fist of Gork. For 1 extra Winds of Magic, you're getting what is that? A 13-second increase in duration, and it's imbuing magical damage. That's pretty worth it. Fist of Gork is a pretty damn decent spell. Again, 7 Winds of Magic lets you get a lot of Bonewood Staff triggers, and greenskins sometimes have difficulties dealing with ethereal units, so this can correct that issue really quickly. A really good spell. I think it's another one that's just worth taking almost all the time, again, unless you're against dwarves, where that magic damage will probably negate the melee attack of the game. But it is a flat buff to just melee attack and melee defense, which is always nice for an infantry unit or a lord that's fighting another lord. Just anything that's in combat, just give it these stats and it'll do like at least twice as good as it normally would. And 35 seconds is a pretty long duration for a buff. For any effect, 35 seconds is pretty long for a melee attack stat. This will probably last the entire duration of the combat that the unit's in, and then some. Always take it, I think. Again, unless it gets dwarves. It's an augment that's always worth bringing. Next, another direct damage spell. We have Edbutt. This is a breath spell. It has a sort of cone-shaped effect. We'll have a look more of it when we get into the battle to show it off. But it's a very triangular breath shape. It's not that damaging. I haven't found it to do as much damage as Brainbuster can. And when Brainbuster is a grey tier spell, that means it's just cheaper overall, and it casts, I think, a bit quicker than Edbutt does. I don't know, I'll have to check that. In my experience, Brainbuster just gets a lot more done than Edbutt does. Edbutt still has that weakness to armor. If you overcast it, it just increases damage, but it should be noted that it does not increase armor piercing damage. So overcasting this does not make it any better against armor, it just means its base damage just does really a lot more. Which can be good. Again, I think this does way more damage to ethereal units, but with that awkward triangular formation, it's sometimes a bit awkward to line up. Especially with frontline formations, you're not always going to get the most possible damage out of this as you could. Whereas Brainbuster is really simple. You just throw that down onto a unit and it'll probably hit everything in the unit. It'll probably do its maximum damage all the time. It's very hard to miss with Brainbuster. Whereas Edbutt definitely has some awkward usage to it that just doesn't suit it quite as much. Not to mention that Edbutt actually has a larger range, so you can use it from further away, whereas Edbutt you need to get a bit closer. And you can't use Edbutt on a wall if you're into that. It just seems to me as it's a worse direct damage spell compared to Brainbuster. And again, overcasting it doesn't have any effect to AP, so I think this is probably the worst spell in the Big WAAAAGH roster. But I do note that it does do more damage to lightly armoured infantry. So if you're really worried about lightly armoured infantry, which greenskins normally aren't because theirs is way better, then I guess you could bring Edbutt if you really want to. Next, another nice little unique spell. Here we go. Quite a famous spell because it increases, it's a area of effect augment that lasts 38 seconds, has a 40 meter range, and it increases melee attack by 40, which is a lot. If you add this on top of WAAAAGH, you're increasing melee attack of like all the units in the area by like 60, 64 I think to be precise. Which, to put it into perspective, if we have a look at some stats on greenskin units, like Orc boys have 28 melee attack. This that increases their melee attack up to nearly 100. It's insane. The fact that the damage increase is spiked so much just shows the greenskin playstyle, just overall how much it can be. And for 11 Winds of Magic, that's pretty cheap for how much damage output this can really dish out. Like if you have a very tight formation and this hits all of your units and all of your units in melee, this is going to do more damage than any Foot of Gork, any Purple Sun could ever do. Just because it's insane how much damage output that can increase by, especially if it's on infantry. This works. It should be noted that melee attack buffs usually work best on infantry as opposed to single entity models, just because you've got a way more increase with all the models hitting compared to just one model swinging, which is usually almost guaranteed to hit anyway. So it's really good used on infantry. Like always use it on your infantry as much as possible, because it will just cause them to cleave to anything. It'll cause Orc Boys to beat like Lore Masters of Hoeth. It's insane just how much damage output can be increased from that. And for 38 seconds, again, 38 seconds is a long time. The only caveat I've noticed with the spell is you can't seem to target it on the ground. You need to target it specifically on a unit, which when you're trying to hit as many units as you can possible, it can be a bit awkward to aim it sometimes. But ideally you just want to be hitting anywhere between 2 and 3 infantry units that are engaged in melee. That's like the ideal situation. If you're doing that, then you're probably getting your worth out of it. And again, 11 Winds of Magic, considering it is expensive, 11 Winds of Magic definitely isn't a cheap spell, but for what it's doing, it's still fairly cheap. And then you pair this with the Bonewood Staff, which further increases melee attack by an extra 12. That's what's that? So we're at 52? Okay, so we're at 52 plus melee attack. Then you add on WAAAAGH, that's another 24, so that's 76 melee attack to all units in that area. It's ridiculous. Like, that's literally like more than 3 times most of your infantry's melee attack added on to the original melee attack. It does a lot of damage. I think I've said enough. It does a lot of damage. It's an insanely powerful support spell. Moving on now to the big old flashy spell that everyone loves in the Big War roster, but some people just don't use quite right. The Foot of Gork is pretty unique in the fact that it's there aren't really many spells that are quite like it. It's a single circular explosion that is very focused on just huge damage. It does really good AP damage and it does really good base damage. And no matter what's caught in this, it's probably going to take damage. Even like monstrous infantry will take a fair amount of damage from this. The only downside, of course, is being it's very expensive and it has a bit of a wind-up time. So it is possible to move out of the way of it. Ideally, its units, the ideal things you want to hit with it are like expensive cavalry and infantry, because that's where you're going to get the most value, which you really do want it, because I mean it's 18 Winds of Magic. That's like more than most Vortex spells. But it does do a lot of damage. Overcasting it increases the damage by even more, including its armor piercing damage, so it's just a lot. Which, I mean, for 26 Winds of Magic, you better hope that anything it touches dies immediately, because you're spending like all of your magic on a single spell. And God forbid this spell misses. If this spell doesn't hit what you want it to hit, so it just hits some cheap unit, or it doesn't hit the unit that like the unit's moved out of the way of its area of effect, you've just wasted a huge amount of magic. And it should be noted that this doesn't pair well with the whole Bonewood Staff thing, because it's so expensive that you're not going to be able to get as many casts off. But it does do a lot of damage, and although it doesn't pair with the Bonewood Staff very well, it does pair with WAAAAGH's special one of his abilities, Effigy of the Git, a net ability that also does damage. Putting this onto like a Grail Knight unit and then Foot of Gorking it, actually just putting this onto any unit and then Foot of Gorking it will probably wipe it out. So if you want to wipe out a unit, just use Effigy of the Git and then Foot of Gork and you will kill it. Unless it's like monstrous infantry or a single entity, you're probably going to kill the entire unit. It could be literally the most elite Ironbreaker unit, it could be chosen, fully chevroned, but it'll still probably die to that. It will at least be left with less than 20% health. Which, I mean, when you're using one of your ability charges and you're using 18 Winds of Magic or Overcast, if you really want to go for that, you better hope you're getting all of your use out of it, because you really need to. Otherwise it's not worth your time in the slightest. But it is a very fun, powerful explosion, and pretty good overall. If we just take a look back overall at the Big War spellbook, you can see it's not as supportive as the Little War, but it does still have its very big hitting support abilities. Here we Go and Fist of Gork are both really powerful support abilities, but they're quite standard. Not a lot of basic utility, it's just a big buff. Whereas Little War has like Night Shroud, Gork will Fix It, and Itchy Nuisances, which are a lot more utility based. Everything in Big War is very simple. It's big, flashy, boom, buff. It's simple, as you might expect from Greenskin Lore of Magic. There's not a lot of utility or speciality about it other than it does big numbers. Numbers get big when you deal with Big War. The only exception being Gaze of Mork, which is the cheapest spell in the lore anyway. But yeah, it's all the Greenskin lores have access to are all really good. I can't say that any of them is best either way. There's definitely situations where some are better than others, but when it comes to the differences between Big War, Little War and Lore of Death, they're all pretty on par, I'd say. There's situations that are different for each lore, but as a whole, you're not going to get penalised for bringing any 3 of them. They're all pretty decent. Now then, if we take a look at some spells in action, shall we? Actually, we shouldn't use dwarves, that's a bad example. What's a good target? We use just to test some of those sniping tools. We'll go ahead and throw in a caster with no spells because that would ruin the fun of it. Just for as a baseline, has 15 armor, so we'll see how those weak against armored spells do. And actually, why don't we bring a Lore Master of Hoeth by comparison, just so we can see the differences in damage between an armored target and a non-armored target. We'll go ahead and take what's the best battery? So yeah, we'll take WAAAAGH just because it's fun to see how big his damage can get. We'll take Bonewood Staff and that, of course. And then we'll also take a little Warcaster with this and this. This and this, this. Is there anything else I want to take? Taking a Ragnarok just for show. And then we can just fill in the High Elf Army with Spearmen. And probably don't need anything else, right? Actually, let's turn off unit caps and bring more Spearmen. Right then, that should be good to go. Let's take a look at this. Oh, I haven't read the comments. They're on. Good. I don't feel bad anymore. So we'll take a look at the little War and big War in this here battle. Just going to show out some of the spells, see what they're like, see what the damage values are like. Take a look at what was the thing I was curious about. How does Edbutt do compared to Brainbuster? That's something I want to check. Yeah, take a look. Oh, we're in. Alright then, let's take a look at this. So, we'll line up some goblins in front, because of course that's what you do, you throw the goblins in first as the experiment. Orc boys can stay in the back. And then let's go ahead and take a look at some of these damages. Alright then, well we'll start off with a Gaze of Mork, and we can also show off that casting effect. Let's see here. So I might end up hitting both of them if they keep stacking on top of each other like that. But you know, these things happen. So here we can take a look at just the accuracy. So there go the missiles, flying quite quickly. Okay, as you can see there from the Gaze of Mork, not a lot of them hit. In fact, a lot of them just ended up hitting in the back. But from the damage that was done, only about, yeah, not a lot of that hit. Only about 70 damage was dealt, which is probably just only like 1 or 2 missiles. If we can compare that to Vindictive Glare. So if we take a look, he's on 2,793. You see there, only like 1 of them missed. The other ones all hit like perfectly on target. If you look at the damage difference, it was not that much either. Not as good either. Yeah, typically used against larger targets, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact damage when their targets are this small. But mostly focused on those, like, if she was on a horse, that would be much more likely that a lot more of them hit. Not as many hitting this time. We'll take a look at another direct damage spell. We can see exactly how much Brainbuster will do. So, considering Spearmen have 40 armor, let's take a look here. So yeah, that was like a non-ideal cast, and that's about half the health of the Spearman unit. Pretty decent. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to test, was whether or not Curse of the Bad Moon affects friendly units. We'll have a look at that. Also, you can see that, yeah, Bonewood Staff was activated there. Those goblins had 32 melee attack. But you especially, like, you can basically read all of these spells when you're dealing with WAAAAGH as give plus 12 melee attack to all units. So when you're pairing this with, like, so if we take Fist of Gork here, Take a look at goblin stats now. Boom, up to 56. They start with like 20 melee attack. They're up to 56 and 50. This means they're actually going to cleave through spearman units. While we're at it, let's take a look at this little one. So this is like best case scenario in terms of damage. Let's see if it affects the friendly unit. Let's see if it appears down here in the bottom. And we can see that Curse of the Bad Moon does not affect friendly units. And you can see that it's just doing a huge amount of damage. A ton. It's just wiped out 2 spearman units. And it just debuffed all these units for like 22 seconds. And it's still going. It's still going in the perfect motion. Man. Oh yeah, no, it's pretty perfect. Considering those are goblins. That's pretty perfect. Very, very, very good. I think Curse of the Bad Moon is a very underrated Vortex spell. It just isn't used so much. Neither is the Lore, to be fair, but a very, very powerful one in my opinion. And now, just for those of you that like looking at huge amounts of melee attack, we'll go ahead and pair Here We Go along with Bonewood Staff, and then we also hit WAAAAGH. We can see that these Orc boys are 104 melee attack. 104. 104 melee attack is just it's a little bit insane. If there were more units here, these spearmen would be dead seconds. The only thing that's saving them is the duration. But even then, even just Here We Go activated, they're still up to 68 melee attack, which is huge. Let's go ahead and take a look at an headbutt. So you can see it's a bit of an awkward thing to aim. You're never usually getting your like best case scenario out of it, but it does do a sizable amount of damage. Again, I still think Brainbuster is better, but I think there's probably situations where you can get more value out of headbutt than Brainbuster. Get WAAAAGH out of there. And of course everyone wants to see the Foot of Gork, so let's see if I can't get a Foot of Gork out. Actually, with the amount of Winds of Magic left, actually, here you go. Use this. Come on, it's 18 Winds of Magic, so it's hard to get that much Winds of Magic. Dun 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 dun. There you go. More magic. Here we go. So let's see it all gather around the Arachnoid spider. No, it's not. Let's see what's... Okay, yeah, so this is best case scenario. This is a non-overcasted, but even then I think it's going to delete. There we go. Putting down a Foot of Gork. So it does have a little bit of a wind-up, so people can move out the way of it, but it's not that long, and you can just see it just kills everything. Everything that was in that area is pretty much dead. And that just seals in the victory. It's hard to call this a victory when it's a test, but you know, it still counts. Yeah, pretty good overall. If we take another lot of Vindictive Glare off that, so Loremaster of the Hoarth probably won't take as much damage, although this is like ideal situation. There it goes, it hits the general through the Loremaster of Hoarth. And it did an okay damage, like for 4 Winds of Magic you are definitely getting an okay amount of damage out on single entities. So it's by no means a weak spell. So yeah, that's it for the Lores of Little WAAAAGH and Big WAAAAGH. As you can see, they're both pretty good lores. Let's take a look at some of that value. So this is pretty much exclusively from that Curse of the Bad Moon, 1,200 in value. That's more than paid for the caster itself with all the spells on it. Really good. Really good, nice little lores they have there. Alright then, let's take a look at the other lores. What lores should we do next? That's not a lore, that's a lore. Well, we may as well look at the rune magic, things that's new. Now, the rune magic is fairly new, so please forgive me as I am not an expert in it yet, but I will try and cover it to the best of my abilities. Right, starting off. So, for those of you that don't know how rune magic works, it's probably better just to look at another video, because it's kind of hard to describe. We can take a look at it in the session. Also, Psycho's here.
Who needs magic anyways?
Who needs magic? Magic's for loot.
Just bring no caster, guys. It solves all your issues.
Does a rune caster count?
Just don't have the choice in the first place.
Does a rune caster count as magic? Does that count as a caster?
Technically, at this point, yeah, due to how it functions.
Yeah, it's basically magic, but it's not magic. It's magic, but not magic.
It's magic, but with infinite amount of uses.
Pretty good. Especially in the late game, which is the dwarf playstyle. Anyway, let's take a look at some of those runes. Starting off, we have Rune of Negation, which is the 40% damage resist onto a single target. pretty good. 24 seconds, and they're going to take like half the damage. Like dwarves already take like no damage, so just cutting that in half by even more just means they're going to take even less damage. Especially good if...
AoE as well.
No, it's not an AoE, unfortunately. That's the old version was an AoE. This version is a single target. Overcasting it increases the duration to 40 seconds, which it's not great.
If you got good old Gotrick though.
Yeah, if you've got Godric, or if you've just got like any single unit that's been like teamed up on, like say your Lord's getting like ganked by like every unit, it's like that's the perfect situation to just drop a Rune Invocation on him, and he'll take like no damage.
Because especially ones like what was it, the Slayer King and Grombrindle, where they can really hit really hard.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is you'll use that, no one will kill them, and then they'll kill everyone else.
Yeah, because they just don't take any damage. It pairs pretty well. Yeah, Ungrim, that's one. So yeah, pretty good, pretty decent augment. Just for any unit that's like dying too quickly for you to handle, just give it 40% damage.
Any frontline unit.
Yeah, even if it's just like a frontline unit of Longbeard, it's still not a great matchup for them. Just
like
give them
Longbeards against like a unit that should be able to beat it, like because it's also really good against armor piercing.
Yeah, because it's just flat damage resistance, so it doesn't matter if it's armor piercing. If it's even if it's magical, damage resistance just means all damage cannot be ignored. Yeah,
if you don't want your Longbeards to be completely destroyed by a bunch of great weapons, you drop that on them.
So you've got like some Longbeards with great weapons fighting Black Orcs. If you give them Rune Invocation, they'll probably beat the Black Orcs.
Yeah.
It works out pretty well in most matchups.
Thank God. Oh wait, what's the upgraded version?
Upgrade just increases duration. By only by 16 seconds as well, so it's not a great overcast.
Yeah, it's like, wait, it does it have AoE?
Yeah, overcasting, of course, they're bringing it up briefly. Rune magic, in terms of it doesn't deal with magic; it deals with cooldowns, and overcasting just increases the cooldown by even more. So that makes it arguably worse than regular magic, just because you don't want to deal with more cooldown. You want to be trying to get as many rune as you possibly can before the game ends.
Yeah.
So it's not because like you have an infinite amount, so you want to be using as many as possible. Overcasting runes is not usually worth it because you just want to use as many as you possibly can in a short space of time. But pretty good, pretty decent rune. Next rune, Rune of Oath and Steel. It's an AoE, area of effect buff, gives all units 30 armor, which is fine.
When you need your rangers to have more armor.
Yeah,
that's the only reason.
Just in case you needed that.
Or just like give your slayers a comparable armor to clan ranks.
Oh wow, nice! They got that actually put a shot on instead of nothing. Yeah. Their armor has truly increased.
It's a wife beater.
Yeah, that's all it is. Well, yeah, I mean, duration 44 seconds. That's a pretty long duration for in terms of a buff. If you're getting this for the whole duration, like that's in combat, it's probably worth it. Overcasting it increases it to 6 armor, which is double the effect, which is even more worth it probably. But again, dwarves already have a lot of armor.
Unless you're using it on like giant slayers or something, and then using the upgraded version.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you've got like a big slayer blob, and then you're just giving it all 60 armor, then all of a sudden it's like a armored slayer squad. God forbid somebody gave the slayers armor. Could definitely has some uses. The only problem is that dwarves are already so heavily armored that your opponent almost guaranteed to have armor piercing exclusively. So that armor probably won't come in as much of effect as, say, it would in like the Skaven roster or something.
Yeah.
Just because that armor is already probably being ignored. Unlike that damage resistance that cannot be ignored, that the armor can usually be worked around. It usually is already being worked around because you're up against dwarves.
Like the only units you use it on are probably not wanting to get hit anyways.
No.
And if they're getting hit, something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, something's not gone right. Like Slayers is like best case scenario.
Yeah.
And even then it's so probably the worst rune here. Because it's just sort of out of place in the dwarf roster, but it can has its odd situations if you're using it in the right situation. Next, Rune of Wrath and Ruin. How this changed. This used to be a slowing rune. Now it's a boom. Big old explosion. I haven't actually looked so much at the damage values of actually how much this does. I think it's about the same amount as like a Brainbuster. Am I right?
I think so, except it's less effective against armored units.
Yeah, I think Brainbuster isn't either, but if you overcast it, it does, similar to Brainbuster, it does suddenly become good against armor. So I think it's very, very comparable to Brainbuster, which I just covered. It
Yeah.
just is both
I think
the
its
WAAAAGH
AoE is a
skills.
bit smaller though.
Yeah, it probably is a little bit smaller. But I think it's a bit more focused, so it does more damage on the point
But this
and less damage
does
splashed
help.
out.
This spell actually helps a lot with the dwarves because one of the main problems that they'd have is that they couldn't win a blob fight. If
Yeah, they
someone's
struggle
got
to clear
superior
chaff
infantry,
quickly.
yeah,
They struggle to clear large amounts of inventory really quickly. Like their best units was like miners with blasting charges, which have not very much ammo, so they run out quite quick, or like
yeah,
iron
or
drakes.
if they throw it at the wrong unit.
Yeah. So
But
this sort of helps in that because all of a sudden you have a way to reliably get rid of like units of infantry.
or even break the units of chaff infantry.
Oh yeah, one of
Which
these
makes
on the right point can probably take at least half the health of a chaff infantry unit. Like a unit of clan rats, assuming it hits all the models, will probably get half the lead.
And all the necessary morale damage for a mass rout.
Yeah, it also causes fire damage, so you know, this really only applies to dryads. I can't think of any other unit that really applies to, but you know, dryads exist. So if you're dealing with dryads, it does that. So there's that nice little bonus. But it's basic explosion spell, and it should be noted as well. Having just as many explosion spells as you want in the late game can be quite funny when like when your enemy brings a unit of forgotten infantry back to just when it's down to like the last 2 units left, and then you just blow up their unit
Lord, and
because
it's
you
like,
have infinite runes and you just blow up their last unit because you don't care.
Which I guess it's pretty clear that if you're facing dwarves now, the first thing you want to kill is their rune lords.
Yeah, definitely because of that infinite value potential they have.
Yeah.
But again, that old rune of negation could make that a lot harder. And also, even then, because consider your rune lord gets caught up in a unit of infantry, just explode himself because there's no minimum casting distance. So you can just plant this on himself and it can clear the way, or just kill the units.
Remember when casting distance was something?
Yeah, God, that was terrible. I like it way more now. It's way better.
I didn't mind the casting distance. Also,
And I didn't mind it, but I like it more now still because it's being able to blow up your own caster just to clear the way. It just looks good. It feels good when your caster gets caught in a unit of infantry and you can just blow up everything around them. Good times. Not to mention that the some monstrous casters that had like vortex spells were like really awkward to use because like say you had the Goblin Great Shaman on a spider and you wanted to cast that vortex spell directly in front of him because he was fighting a unit was stacked on top of him. You couldn't cast it though because it was too close. Stuff like that would be annoying, but yeah, it's better now.
I mean, like the minimum range, like if it was
the minimum.
Pretty much like if it was only like 5 meters or something, where it's like directly on top, like anything directly within them.
Yeah, so if you had like a monstrous caster, like a Ragnarok, or if you had Malekith and you wanted to cast blade spinning thing on himself.
And it always measured it from the edge of the unit.
Yeah, which could be annoying, especially for Malekith because he's such a wide unit. It means you really couldn't anything attacking him you couldn't cast on. But that's changed now. Don't need to talk about that anymore because that's gone.
Yeah.
That's out the window. And it works quite well with Rune of Wrath of Ruin. Next, Rune of Breaking. This is a single target augment which increases damage but also applies sundered armor. So this means that whenever they hit the enemy, they will sunder their armor, reducing their armor by 30 for 10 seconds, which is pretty much continuous when they're in melee.
Yeah.
Which is again pretty good. If you're dealing with
blob fights.
Blob fights because you're sundering all their armor. Say because a lot of the time you're just bringing longbeards as your front line. Longbeards of course aren't armor piercing. And say the enemy unit is just a slightly bit armoured, this is going to make sure you can actually do really good damage to them whilst you're chipping away at them. Pretty decent, and 33 seconds is probably going to last the duration of the fight as well. Overcasting it increases the duration to 55 seconds, so it's going to last the duration and then some. But it is, again, single target, so you really want to... Ideal situation is you have a unit fighting 2 different units, so you can sunder both their armours. But that's wishful thinking. It's just one again similar to Rune of Negation. It's a spell that you can throw on a unit, and it's going to help it fight. Except for this is only really going to apply it to like a frontline engagement.
Unless you put on like one of the lords or something to just for the damage buff.
Yeah, because a lot of the like if you think about Belagar, isn't armor piercing, so this to help out with him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, sundered armor, you could even just apply it. Say you have a lot of non-armor piercing missiles, so you have a ton of rangers or quarrelers. You just throw this on something, and then sunder its armor. Say there's like an Arachnarok that you just want to sunder its armor, and then all of a sudden you can do way more damage to it.
Yeah. Because only the one unit has to hit. All they have to do is hit the unit once.
Yeah, it could be any model in a Longbeard unit just to hit it, and then boom. You sundered its entire armor, and the entire Arachnarok spider is now weaker because that Longbeard poked it.
Yeah, or Umgrim somehow caught it and hit it once.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty decent organ
Technically,
spell.
actually, technically, you could put it on gyrocopters and just
Although I
fly
think it's
them in.
melee.
Yeah, you fly them and hit.
Oh, you
charge
fly
in
them in, yeah, because how
melee,
quick they are.
and then run away.
Yeah, potential.
Yeah, you could just keep sundaring stuff over and over again.
But compared to like, again, I think this is one of the worst runes compared to the other ones. Definitely has its uses, but compared to like Rune of Wrath of Ruin or Rune of Negation.
I think the second rune is probably the worst.
Yeah, that's definitely the worst, but this is a close second, I think.
Yeah, it's got its place, and you could probably use it depending on the force you're facing. Like if you're against Skaven or something, it's unlikely that you're gonna face Storm Vermin anyways.
Yeah, like if you're up against
do,
if you know the faction's going to reliably have more than 30 armor, like High Elves or something, then yeah, bring that. But I think like High Elves probably best case scenario.
Minus 30 armor on the 30 armor unit is pretty damaging.
Yeah, especially if you're using a long bridge unit.
Because, yeah, especially because it'll pretty much mean all your units hit for full damage every time, and you just clear through infantry really quickly.
Yeah.
Even though your attack is really bad.
Yeah, melee attack can be a bit low, which is kind of counterintuitive, but
not,
still works.
Yeah, it has its place, but
it's a bit of an awkward one.
Need to bring
no.
you. Anyways, next.
Something that is a pretty good buff though is Rune of Speed. Augment that applies 24 melee attack and 45% speed. Which is, I mean, 18 seconds isn't the longest duration. You're mainly using it for the speed in that case. But if you all of a sudden want to make your Slayers a cavalry unit, then go for it.
Yeah.
I think overcasting it increases the duration. Yeah, it increases the duration to 30 seconds, which is more comparable to other buffs.
I think the most important thing is the plus 24 melee attack for a faction that has awful melee
absolutely
attack
awful melee attack.
The board.
And also speed for a faction that also has awful speed across the board.
Yeah, this is, I think, probably the best spell.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because it increases, that increases duration.
I think it is pretty good. The only problem is the duration, in my opinion. Like 18 seconds isn't that long.
Yeah, but if you can, the idea is that if you overcast it for the 30 seconds and then just win the frontline fight, you're not going to need it again.
Yeah, the plus point is its area of effect, which definitely helps out a lot. You want to hit as many of your own units as possible.
You're pretty much using it on the 3 long grids you have in your front line. Completely win the frontline fight, or just kill as many blobs as possible. That's the key thing.
It's probably the best of the buff spells compared to Renegation. You could pair with. This is more of a this is the best area of effect spell. Definitely helps a lot out with augmenting a large number of units, because that 24 melee attack. I mean, if we look at some of the stats, I'm pretty sure Longbeards have like 30 melee attack. That nearly doubles their melee attack using that, and then their stats come up to like similar to like chosen level stats with like 54, 48.
54
for Longbeards for a unit that's 700 gold. It's insane. 100 armor, 80 leadership. The stats are insane.
Yeah, it is.
And then you also increase their speed by double, so now they have 42 speed. No, it's not that much. Jesus, it's 38 speed or so.
30. Yeah, it's probably like 38 or something.
Yeah, about 38
They move as fast as Marauders.
Yeah, they're quick. Woohoo, they're fast.
Fast boys now. They could actually catch...
something, anything.
I don't know. Yeah, something.
Yeah, so a pretty decent rune, pretty decent augment rune. It's probably worth taking most of the time just for those situations. It's you probably not use as much in the late game. It's one you probably use earlier on, I think, when you have a lot of your infantry left. But pretty decent still. Yeah, next, Rune of Slowness, which is basically the slow. It's the slow.
It's the must-take for the dwarves.
Yeah, it's the must-take one. If you assuming you even then, it's the must-take one probably. You'll always want to take this one.
You're always going to need something to slow the enemy.
30 seconds and you're reducing speed by 50%. You cast this as soon as something quick comes into range, and then you just blast it.
Yeah. And also the charge bonus thing is pretty big as well, because monstrous units...
Or cavalry or anything.
Yeah.
Just means that charge bonus is getting, because dwarves obviously do deal with have problems dealing with chariots and stuff with high charge bonuses because they're prone to get cycle charged. This helps out a huge amount with those weaknesses.
Now, if I remember correctly, that the blue circle timer is supposed to be what you have to wait before casting another rune, right?
Yeah, so the blue one is how long it takes before that rune can be cast again. No, before another rune. So the blue one is before you can cast another rune. 120 the white one is how long before you can cast the same rune. We'll
Yeah,
have a look at
so
it when we look in there in game, but basically, whenever you cast one, that goes on cooldown for 120 seconds, and the rest go on cooldown for 60.
yeah, which
Yeah.
one of the key things that I was thinking is that what someone could do if they've got chariots and they're afraid of that ability is they can hold them on the outskirts and wait till you use one
Mhm.
of your runes,
Yeah.
and then charge everything in and overrun.
Yeah, because that overcast casting effect. It should also be noted another thing with that is never bring just one rune. Always bring two, because the cooldown is easier to use if you have two.
Yeah.
At least two. You should never bring one. Ever. There's no reason you'd ever bring one. Overcasting it increases the speed reduction and the duration. So if you really don't want something to get away by even more, then just go ahead and overcast it. Probably better saved for like a lord that's in melee or something, or something that you've got pinned down. Like say you've got a... Basically if you've got like a dragon or something pinned in melee that you don't want to get away, you just ping that on it and it's never going to get away. It's going to die to your thunderers before it can get out. But yeah, must have I think for the to help with a lot of the dwarf weaknesses. That reduction in speed is pretty necessary as a whole, and pretty decent as well. If we take a look at the typical casters, I say casters, it's kind of awkward to call them casters. Yep. Obviously all the dwarf rune lords are very armoured. There's no casting effect, I don't think there's any passive casting effect. No, there isn't.
Yeah, do they? I don't think they do.
They don't have any passive casting effects, so there's nothing really to talk about there. But dwarf, it's hard to say that. I think rune magic is probably the best lore of magic dwarves have access to. It's also the worst. Always bring it. I don't really know what else to say besides that.
The only
this is usually
Lore of
the
magic they can bring.
Yeah, this is usually the part where I say like, oh, you should bring life magic instead. But no, you just bring this all the time because it's your only option. Literally, it's not even metaphorical. Your only option. It's literally your only option.
Because you try and bring that bunga wunga magic in my temple in my fortress, so I'm gonna beat you with a hammer until you stop
grungy.
twitching.
Or you're Ungrim, yeah. Ungy.
Yeah.
Trying to learn Dwarvish is like insane.
Umgak.
Oh, Umgak weapons. Umgak cage.
Yes.
I am building a defences anyway.
Yes. I am reinforcing this whole.
Oh, good times. It's a shame that's ending.
Yes. Yeah,
Makes me sad now every time I reference it. Have you seen the most recent two?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, sad times. Let's not spoil it now. But sad times. So if we take that's Lore of Runes, we may as well take a look at that in a battle right now. Actually, you on Warhammer? Can you beat Warhammer? Are you able to? Say now for a whole day, please.
For a whole day of what?
So just can you load up Warhammer? I don't know. Sorry, just so you can show the rune magic because it's a lot easier to do it against the player than it is against an AI.
Oh, let's see. I could probably do it for the rune magics, I guess,
cool.
But I mean, I think the most important one would be the what's it called?
I'm gonna see the explosion damage.
Yeah, the explodey one.
Right, game's up.
I'm just waiting for my thing to.
I'll just get to that.
Lagging sometimes.
Right, game's up. Let's see. Dwarfs. That's Clan Angwend. Oh yeah, speaking of Clan Angwend, there is an ethereal rune lord that's worth mentioning. What else is there that's unique? Oh, there's also... Oh, actually, it's not a rune lord that the expedition gets access to, is it? It's a regular Thane. Let's take a look. Actually, I do want to check again how it works with runesmiths. If you have like multiple rune lords, runesmiths. I'm just going to double check that. Passwords 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm just still loading in.
Okay.
Wasn't able to get any like replays with people.
No, like us don't keep on.
No.
Sad. I have to make
to do it.
I don't know if I see Ted on today actually.
Yeah. Must have been pretty good tea.
Delicious tea.
Yes, the best tea.
You got Slars tomorrow? I'm good. That's nice.
Yeah, we got stars tomorrow, and
Probably said that every Friday.
yeah, I know.
It comes up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Except for even the days we don't have Slars tomorrow, I just say we got
I
Slars.
know. It's like, so how about that Solaris though?
Yeah, how about that Slars legacy?
You're gonna lose, as usual.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? I've won 2.
I don't know.
Not against me. You've lost 2 against me.
Actually,
so
when
far.
you win one of them, you just left first thing, didn't you?
You lost.
Yeah, you were
Every
in
time
one
you
of them.
played
You
against
just
me
you
when
were
I
in one
played
of you
Volcom,
were
you
in one of
lost.
them. You just left and you just rage quit so quickly because you knew I'd won. And you gave your Empire to Sedan, didn't you?
Oh, I believe he had life things to deal with, like moving.
Imagine having our life, loser. What are you, some kind of pillar of the community?
Okay, so again,
Yeah,
what are you testing?
Rune magic,
We're
which waiting for
Yes.
Psycho to load in.
yeah, I know.
We've done. I did Little War and Big War on my own.
Yeah, I saw.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
I saw.
But
Now we're doing
so
rune
Will,
magic.
you
What are the
gonna-
laws of
you gonna
magic?
do
Actually?
You gonna do another minerals for alloy trade with me?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I am making a lot of alloys. I'm making like 200. Spoiler.
Yeah. I'm making a lot of minerals.
Oh yeah, which laws haven't we done yet, Lycus, by the way?
If you open it, we have done.
I know we've done. But which ones haven't we done? We haven't done. Did we do shadows?
We didn't do shadows.
Did we
yet.
do shadows?
No, we didn't.
No,
do
we
shadows.
haven't.
I haven't done shadows. I haven't done wilds.
Shadows is missing. Wilds is missing.
Did we do beast? I don't think we did beast either.
We did beast.
Did we do
No, we
beast?
didn't do beast.
No,
we
we didn't
did.
do beast.
I thought we did. Yeah, we did beast. I'm always confusing that with wild. We did do beast. We didn't do shadows. We did fire.
We did fire, I think.
Skaven. I think both Skaven.
Yeah, all
all
3
three
Skaven laws.
Skaven laws are still missing.
Yeah, so after the fifth, I
Yeah.
think it's all 3 Skaven laws: beasts, wilds, and shadows.
Yeah.
And deliverance of Ether and deeps.
No, we did Deliverance of Vita. I mean, we didn't do a battle of it. Maybe I should show that off as well. Go lizard men, so you can see. Actually, no, it doesn't work so well against dwarfs. We'll do that another one. We'll throw that in against something else. I think I covered it, but I never did a replay of it or a battle of it. We did do deeps.
We did the Nekara, yeah.
Yeah, we did
Okay.
deeps in that current. That's what we
We
did.
did deeps, really. Oh.
Yeah, because we were like laughing at the boat. Remember?
Ah, yes, because it's.
Ah, yes, the ship boat.
Yeah, I kind of suppressed that memory.
Don't blame me.
Boat? What?
The Vargeist Revenge. Vangeist Revenge. The boat.
Okay.
I'll see you still loading in Psycho?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. I think I'm at the menu now.
You think you are,
There we go.
but you're not.
Yeah, I'm always. Well, I'm setting myself to invisible too, so don't
No,
worry.
that doesn't help.
I'm being extra sneaky.
It's just sneaky.
Yes.
We did roll heaven.
Absolutely.
Something I've only come to realise recently. Curse of the Bad Moon. Pretty damn good vortex spell, eh?
Yeah, it's probably it. From what I've been able to tell, it doesn't do a lot of like direct damage like Flame Vortex.
But I mean, it's 11
but
winter magic. And it
Yeah,
has that
yeah.
debuff that lasts for 22 seconds.
That's the most important thing I think is that the debuff that it gives.
And if you overcast it, I didn't even notice this at first, it also increases the debuff's duration to 44 seconds.
Yeah.
That means the debuff's going to last 40. And it also, the debuff doesn't affect friendly units. I tested it. It does not hit friendly units, so it only affects enemy units. So you throw that on the front line, boom,
Yeah.
you win.
You effectively win because I don't think the debuff will affect your own units.
No, it doesn't.
if I'm
No,
correct.
I tested it. It doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Let me just.
Go elves.
I was gonna just
chaos.
go.
Yeah, sure.
I was gonna
Actually, yeah,
go
chaos works.
'cause- yeah,
Bring
chaos
marauders
does-
and warriors, so we can see the differences. Actually, what would normally bring longbeards? Yeah, bring a chosen unit as well, just to see how
Yeah,
longbeards
no,
would
I
perform.
was gonna bring because I was gonna bring the 3 levels of armor.
Yeah,
where
bring
you,
the 3 levels.
around around 15 to 30, which is marauders. Then
Yeah.
75, which is
chaos warriors,
yeah,
and then
no,
chosen.
that's Forsaken.
Oh,
Chaos
oh,
warriors
okay.
have 100 armor.
Oh, yeah,
and
they have
chosen
100.
have 120.
Bring all 4 levels. Although Forsaken are kind of spread out, so it's kind of hard to use like direct damage spells on them.
No, they aren't. They actually are fairly packed.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Oops.
Boom. Oh god, that means next week we're probably going to do like exclusively Skaven and Beastman laws.
Yeah.
Yes.
My brain trembles.
Good times.
Don't worry, I'll tell
Oh, yeah,
them
we have
all
Lore of
about
Eshin.
how amazing Warp Star is, even though it's a garbage ability that never works and never does enough damage to merit its magic.
Actually,
cost
did we do
even.
Lore of Eshin? Didn't we talk about the Lore of Eshin?
We
Yeah, we
I
did.
talked about we talked about it during the Skaven session, but that was also the case
Ah.
that we talked about all the magic in Skaven session.
We'll do them again. Why not?
Yeah. But yeah, never use Warp Star. It's awful.
Yeah, it doesn't hit anything.
The only reason you'd ever use it is to be like, hey, I want to just reapply the map-wide poison effect.
That's been nerfed more, hasn't it?
No,
Didn't
it
it?
hasn't been affected actually,
Oh, nice.
because it's still an effect. It does it's actually I think the same, like only like 2 or 3% off now of the actual poison effect.
Oh,
So it's comparable to actual poison now.
not bad. How's the loading coming on?
Halfway there. Don't worry.
Okay. Let's hope. It's an NP Crossroads 1v1. There's no way
it's-
Psycho can fail to load into this. It's the simplest map. The simplest amount of units. What could go wrong? How you doing, Lycos? You right?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm just
That's a shame.
figuring out what I want to do tomorrow.
What do you mean for Solaris?
Yes.
Mm. What are you doing against? Like, oh, you're the Terran Confederacy.
I'm the Terran Confederacy. And I'm gonna free the-
Egalitarian xenophobe.
Yes.
Everyone is equal except from you.
Except for you, you fucking Zerg piece of shit. Get in that cell. You belong.
Savages.
No, but also, you know, since Kane has fellow Terrans under like
They're his thumb.
Hegemony, yeah.
yeah, so I'm gonna be having to fight him over that.
Hmm.
But also Necrotic's real mad at him, so he's gonna
yeah,
want to
understandable.
fight too.
They're different from us, which means they
Well, and
can't be
also
trusted.
he's got like a meta build, right? Too.
Has he? Like us.
Yeah,
yes,
he's
it's
got
pretty minor.
Lithoid Necrophage plus like
Oh yeah,
Memorialist.
Lithoid Necrophage is pretty good.
Or yeah, that alone is just okay. All right there.
I see what you're doing.
It's
That's not what you did there.
Lithoid Necrophage with Materialist, which is actually was even banned in the last Solaris tournament that I watched.
Yeah.
God knows that there's like a little incap there with that Scion Megacorp.
Yeah.
Meta. He doesn't watch these streams, don't worry.
You know,
Oh well, only when it suits him.
only when he needs
I'm
to
pretty sure
learn
Incap's aware of it, but he's also spiritualist, so.
No,
Yeah,
that makes it fine. He's off the hook.
Well, he's playing Spiritualist, which means he's probably not going to get that much tech, and even if he does play tall, he's also still the Scion.
Scion is a... Oh yeah, and Lycos, do you know? I'm going to test it out now, but having multiple Rune Lords and I'm pretty sure I've figured this out before, but having
They
multiple
all
Rune
have the
Lords and
same
Runesmiths,
cooldown.
they all share it. So there's no reason to bring multiple Rune Lords or Runesmiths.
Isn't there the global cooldown on a rune, and then you have the local cooldown for...
Oh, for the individual Runesmith.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought it was... I didn't play Dwarfs that much.
That's fair. I'm ready. I've got my thing played
Don't
on.
worry.
Got classic Thorok, of course. The Lord. The legendary Lord that has the rune magic. Let's see some of these spells in action. I call them spells, but it feels awkward calling them spells. What do you call it?
I don't know. Yeeting a rune at somebody. Like, I just imagine
Yeah,
he just like
throwing a
bangs on the
word.
rune.
Just writes something
Like
down on a
he's-
piece of paper and throws at them. Then first of all, let's test out one of these Wrath of Ruins. I'm going to hear Wrath of Ruin a lot, and I'm going to realise it's the explosion, not the slow effect. They really did a 180 on that spell. Rune.
Alright. But as you can see, I've got the Marauders in the front.
You got the
for
tears,
second,
yeah.
And then
And Sigvald.
Chaos
No, it's a
Warriors.
Chaos Lord. No, it's Archeon.
It's
That-
Archaon.
He looks
with,
so similar to
Chosen.
Sigvald running. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same one animation.
I think everyone has the exact same running animation.
I don't know, these runesmiths looking pretty waddly.
I don't know. I'm gonna click on like the Chaos Warriors, and my graphic will show me the cue ball head of the fucking warrior.
Classic graphics. Alright, stand still. I want to see how much these do to Marauders.
In a second. There we go.
Alright, let's start off with a Rune of Wrath rune directly in the centre of that. Should be noticed that obviously it has a pretty quick cast time. This is very difficult to move out the way of. And there you go. That's about.
Wow, that is actually very unimpressive.
Yeah,
it
not
did do
much.
decent morale damage.
Yeah, it does have a very focused centre. I don't think it has a lot of splash compared to Brainbuster, so you want to be hitting it like on everything at once. But typically
Let's see what
things
happens
are
if
like
it's
that.
blobbed around something.
Yeah, also let's take a look at some of those. Oh yeah, so there's those shield. The cooldowns aren't shared.
Oh,
there's
there?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I can just cast another.
So why don't you drop
Go for
another
that.
one on top of that
Alright,
blob there?
let's see how
and
much
see
this
well
does
it
here.
This is the best case scenario, really.
So there's a reason to take multiple Rune Lords and Runesmiths. Oh yeah, because I think Rune of Wrath does a lot more focused damage compared to Brainbuster, but it doesn't have as much of a area of effect. So that probably means it's better against like lower entity infantry. Like maybe Forsaken it'll do really good against.
Yeah. Oh,
That's like
actually,
its best case scenario,
Forsaken
probably.
never got any of their stats changed. They just have less models now.
Sucks to be them.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see how much if they stack up on Thoric. Let's see how much one of these does. This is a non-overcast, bear in mind. And this is a 70 armor unit though, so let's bear that in mind as well. Let's wait for them to blob off as much as possible. And then, okay, they did take a bit of damage there, bear that in mind. And boop. Yeah, I think that was mainly,
okay.
yeah, not a lot. I think it's mainly that non-AP not kicking in. Let's try an
Yeah.
overcasted AP version. Actually, I need to wait 40 seconds for that. So just murder this unit for now. Actually, let's test one of the buffs on some Marauders. Let's see, so we got Longbeards going in again.
You better watch out for
What
my
do you say?
18 charge bonus.
Oh, actually,
They're
let's
gonna
drop
wreck
that.
your ass.
Let's drop that. Let's drop that slow. Let's see how much that slow is.
Oh my god.
So with that,
11.
my Longbeards can get away. They can run away from Marauders. But you can
They
just see how
actually
much
move
that
at 3
how much that speed is reduced. Really does.
Also, apparently
have an
less
effect.
armor?
Oh no,
yeah,
that's because the
because
Runesmith's effect. That's just the Runesmith's
Oh,
thingy.
yeah.
Runesmith gives an AoE minus 15 to armor. Do you want to stack up another unit for Forsaken on Thoric? I think this one's
Yeah.
pretty dead.
I'll move this one away.
Yeah, this one's pretty dead. Move that one away. Actually, try. Do you have Chaos Warriors there?
Yeah, I
Try a
do.
unit of Chaos Warriors.
Alright. I'm gonna make them a bit more of a square.
Of course, Longbeard
Charge.
showing why they're such a good infantry here, taking like no damage from Marauders.
Like, the Marauders can do some damage to them, but
Not much.
because yeah. But they have a whopping 7 piercing damage. A quarter of their damage is armor piercing.
Right, let's see this overcasted explosions. Bear in mind this makes it a lot more AP. Also, wait a minute, does it increase the area as well? No, I don't think so. Alright, let's take a look at this. So, about full health? Yeah, that's about half health.
Yeah, but that's also the best case scenario. For
That
that.
is best case
You're
scenario.
hitting every single model.
You get them stacked up on that one unit, yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't kill any of them.
No, it's mainly doesn't have the highest amount of damage, it seems. I mean, if you have multiple Rune Lords and Runesmiths, you just explode that constantly. That could be
Yeah.
quite amusing.
A double explosion would wreck them pretty hard. Alright, now I'll pull these guys back off, and how about let's get the Chaos Warriors to fight like regular Longbeards?
Yeah, see, I'll give him buffed up
Because
actually.
I think Chaos Warriors can, in a flat fight, eventually win against Longbeards because of their better stats.
Yeah. Let's take a look actually at that speed buff as well, real quick.
Yeah. Let's see how much charge
How
bonus you get.
fast they can go. Oh yeah, does that increase charge bonus as well? So.
It usually, or the bonus usually changes.
Alright, let's see them
relative
go.
to-
Let's see that speed. Speed is at
Oh, wow,
38.
that's fast.
that
Faster than
Runesmith's
my
going
warriors.
47. And then you get them into melee.
Alright, try not to get the other one in there.
Yeah, just
so
one
we
of
can
them.
have
And their stats as well, obviously 54, 48. It's like insane. Like we actually have Chosen back there, don't you? So we can compare. Chosen have 46, 60. So when they have that Rune of Speed activated, they have comparable stats to Chosen.
Yeah, almost. Not as much melee defense, but yeah.
I'll give this a free speed real quick, so you can see just the battle we're through. So this is a normal 1v1 versus Chaos Warriors and Longbeards. As you can see, it takes a while because neither are armor piercing.
But Warriors have superior stats, more or less.
Yeah.
So they're able to beat them out. And I think they just have more health than they do.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. That's like a... So yeah. Oh wait, that's Thoric, not Longbeards. There you go. So 6,400 for Longbeards and 6,700 for the Chaos Warriors.
Yeah. Oh, and something's dropping the armor of the Chaos Warriors.
But yeah, the
15
Smoothsmiths,
randomly.
that's actually affecting it. Let's take that away a bit. But I mean, actually, what is the range on that debuff? Yeah, it's not huge.
Yeah. But yeah, if the 24 melee attack is being added to it, they definitely belong.
Definitely would win, or even just a 40% damage resist before you let them win out.
Yeah. Keep them alive.
Or even the Rune of Breaking, actually, before it even help even more. Let's see if we can get a Longbeard unit versus a Chaos Warrior unit, but I'll use the Rune of Breaking on the left, on my left.
Here, I'll bring it up.
Oh, your left. I'm going to use this fresh one. Hasn't been touched. Do you have a fresh unit of Chaos Warriors?
Yeah, I do.
Use a fresh one.
No, that's Chosen. Here we go, over here. Alright, and charge!
Yes. And then we'll go ahead and give Rune of Breaking. Perfect timing. Yeah, basically. And then fast forward this. So that does last 30 seconds, that buff. Which increases their damage, their weapons take up to 40, and they have the armor sundering.
There with the minus 15,
oh yeah, the adding on the Runesmith as well. Let's just taking the Runesmith into account, because that's probably what's going to happen in the front line anyway, because how tight dwarf boxes usually are.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, even with the armor sundering and all that, they are only slightly ahead.
Yeah, but all it takes is that one cast. Like, you can usually cast more than that. You
But
probably
also, all it
cast
takes is, where's our chaos? A little something to...
a little something something. I retaliate with my little something something.
Yeah, more armor piercing damage and also more melee defense. Yeah. Don't worry, I'll just kill my own troops.
No! That will do more damage. Oh, no, actually did way more damage than me. Let's test another explosion, actually. I'm gonna go boom on those Chaos Warriors. Let's see. Boom. Yeah, it doesn't do the most damage. I think it's mainly the fact that it's very repeatable. Like, there's no limit to how many times you can use it, really.
You want to give it a shot on the Chosen?
Yeah, I don't think I'll do much. I'll do Overcasted one now. Stand up still?
Yeah, well, I'm moving up close enough ahead of these guys.
It's fine. Acceptable casualties.
Acceptable casualties.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just stand him there.
Yeah.
See, so this is like best case scenario damage on Chosen. It does about 1,000 damage. Which, you know, isn't bad, but not terrible.
Bad. Like, it, and this is probably comparable damage to what, like, you would do to a Black Orc unit too, because the two units are fairly similar in how tough they are.
I mean, bear in mind that this is like, you can get as many of these as you want, really. It's like whittling down more than it's
by time that you have to.
Yeah, it's that dwarf attrition style playstyle that's going into effect there, really.
But also, this Chosen unit can still fight its way through like 2 different units of Longbeards probably. With a little magic helping it, it'll be fine. And just charge in and fight stuff.
Charge in and fight.
Oh no, run away from the short man!
Smith. I want to actually have everything blob up on a Runesmith and then I'll explode him. No, not Archeon, that doesn't count.
Not Archeon!
Come on, blob. As much as you can.
Alright.
No, he's gonna rout. No, he routed.
Don't worry.
He's a coward.
I'll finish him off. Oh, okay, right. Okay.
Oh, never mind.
Don't worry.
to 5. Let's see if I can
I'll
cast
finish
it.
him off. Flame vortex, go.
No, you're unchosen. Oh my god, this is
Even
so...
better.
Yeah, you can tell just here from the durations. It takes a long time for those 120 seconds cooldowns to wear off. That's why you just want to bring multiple runes so you can use as many as you can. But yeah, that's the runic magic. Take a look at some damage actually. Let's see how much of from all those explosions. Thorok doesn't count because he's in melee a lot.
Yeah.
About 400. I think usually those use them like once or twice.
Yeah.
It's cheap spells, budget spells that just have their uses
It's
because you can use them so much.
free spells.
Yeah, I mean like
It's like the free to play model, you know.
yeah, it's literally just the
Where
free to play.
You don't have to pay anything.
You just have to put in
gotta
time.
wait.
Yeah, you got to put in a lot of time. That free to play model.
The dwarves are just free to play. The free to play boys.
They are pretty free. I think they only have one DLC. So yeah, they are pretty free to play. So yeah, what other lore is there? So do we do another one? I think we do one more.
The funny thing is, even though the Chosen got blown up with them beating up the Lords, they got 1600 value. Yeah. All right, what lore are we doing now?
We do Lore of Shadows.
Okay.
That's a nice one. Let's take a look. Beast. It's actually in the Beastman lore as well, so it's pretty relevant. Did it get? It got some changes as well, didn't it? I think. Well, all the magic's got changes, but I think Lore of Shadows got some specific changes to one of their spells? Question mark? Maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, if we take a look at the passive effect, 10% extra speed to all units map wide. We're just going through the spells first.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna keep hitting.
Just gonna keep ready. Just gonna keep ping, ping, ping. So yeah, that passive effect not amazing. I mean, plus 10% speed map wide. If you for Beastman, because it does affect charge bonus. Bear in mind as well that 10%. But I can't say it's an amazingly good passive effect. You can usually drop it 9 times out of 10. I think. Any disagreements to that?
No, I think it's very much
very
Dull.
situational.
like because you want that when you run into. I mean, 24 seconds is actually kind of huge.
But
You want
plus,
that when you're still running towards the enemy, though, so you have to like waste a spell while you're trying to.
Yeah, while you're trying to charge in. Well, you could use it on like a frontline unit to break it apart and then charge through them. But the other thing I could look at is the 5% vigor you get every time you cast.
What?
Are we talking about beasts?
No,
Are
we
talking
have
about
shadows.
wild?
Shadows.
Shadows. Oops.
Shadows.
Yeah, no, shadows 100%. I always get rid of that shit. Fuck shadows.
No, they have
ability. It's literally the 10% speed, and it's meaningless.
Yeah, that's it. Let's get started with the spells then. Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. That's a mouthful. That's probably the longest spell name in the entire game.
It's okay. It
MMM.
does damage.
Triple M. Yeah, it does okay, decent damage. We'll take a look at some of the values when we get into it, but it is pretty good. And it has a minus 25% speed. You're usually using this
Which
on
is
like...
actually quite good.
Yeah, usually using this on like cav
yeah.
or like infantry. Even just infantry, you probably get, as long as it's not chaffed here like skeletons.
Especially if you're, well, again, if you're a faction like Chaos who have trouble catching stuff sometimes with hounds, you just throw that on whatever unit is running away from them, and then they get caught by hounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a speed buff than poisonous. Speed buff here than poisonous, so it's like irreplaceable with poison now.
Yeah. And also it's only 5 wins of
yeah,
magic.
only 5 wins of magic.
And 29 cooldown, so it's a very spammable spell
Yeah,
on units.
which
that are
doesn't help
faster
when the
than you.
passive effect ain't great, but it's still nice.
Yeah, but who gives a shit? You're not really using it for the passive, you're using it for the spells.
For the damage, for the cast. Overcasting it just increases the range, so not always helpful, but again, cavalry units can be quite far away, so sometimes you just need that extra casting distance to catch something. So not useless. It definitely has its moments. And yeah, pretty basic direct damage spell. Mainly used for multiple targets, as it says. Not great on single targets unless you're using it just for the speed.
Yeah.
Not bad. Next, Enfeebling Foe. The reverse harmonic convergence. It is literally, I think, nearly identical to an opposite. The only difference is the duration slightly lower.
And it's only 6 wins of magic.
Yeah, it's the same amount. It's the same amount as harmonic convergence.
But if you upgrade it, it makes it last even longer.
Yeah, even longer. It makes it last 34 seconds compared to the 17 before.
This is excellent if you want to make a unit pretty much lose the frontline fight,
Yeah.
or if you want to, if a lord decided that he dare strike your lord and you use it, or you can use it defensively to save your lord from dying.
Yeah, I think one of the best situations is probably to use it on like a single entity that's surrounded by infantry. Because dropping melee defense on that situation and melee attack means that not only is that infantry not going to die, it's also going to dish out good damage on that single entity.
When a Dreadsaurian jumps through your infantry line, it kills nothing.
I mean, Dreadsaurian, oh yeah, because it's melee attack and actually drop quite low with a enfeebling foe. And I think it's like really good, really, really decent spell. Like always bring it, because you're always going to be in melee unless you're a skirmish focused army, and so you're always going to want to make the enemy worse in melee. So it's probably always good to bring. Definitely think it's the best. No, all the shadows, we'll get into the other ones, but all the shadow spells are all pretty solid. And this one's probably the most solid of the solid. Like, you can almost always reliably get something good out of this.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
an overcast if you really want it, if you think the unit's going to last a while.
Yeah, if I'm using shadows, I always bring enfeebling foe, because there's always going to be a lord on the enemy team that you're
There's always going to be a unit, a melee unit on the enemy team that you're going to want to debuff. Not even like lord. Just anything. Anything that you don't want your unit to take too much damage, or you just want to kill a unit quickly.
Or if you've managed to catch them, I don't know, you've used like the miasma on them, you're able to catch them now, and then you use enfeebling foe on the lord to make sure that he dies.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Or he can't hit back that hard.
Yeah,
anyways,
pretty solid spell.
Next up, it's the Withering.
The Withering.
It's Wither from the Scaventry, but better.
Yeah, it's a single target.
Of,
reduces armor by 30 and leadership by 8.
Yeah. The only downside is that it's not AoE like Wither.
Yeah, or like Soul Blight.
Or Soul Blight. Yeah, it's pretty much if you upgrade it though, I believe it gives you AoE.
Yeah, overcasting it gives area effect, but that is that risk.
14 winds of magic.
To be fair though, it is a 40-second duration, which is really long for a debuff.
Yeah, and -8 leadership is actually pretty good. It's again, it's useful if you got actually against skirmish cav, I guess it'd be good because they tend to have bad leadership and low armor.
Yeah, it could be pretty good. Oh,
hounds roll up on them.
Big feral single entities as well that have like low leadership, like an Arachnarok or like a Carnosaur. Throw that on, you get it to run away faster, and it takes more damage from missiles and stuff. That also helps out. But of all of them, it's probably one of the more niche sides of the Shadows lore. Not as niche as another one we'll come into later, but it's okay. It's not as solid as Enfeebling Foe. Like Enfeebling Foe, you're going to want to cast way more often than this. And it's a green spell, so you're going to have to be paying that green cost for it. But it's decent. Minus 30 armor for 40 seconds, and also the leadership debuff can be nice. Yeah, it's fine. Take it if you want.
Interesting usage I've seen about it is you drop it on single entities, which have generally, or like single entity monsters, especially from the Lizardmen, which don't have the best leadership.
Did I just say this?
Yeah.
And you can, like, you normally don't take it for the armor debuff, but you can actually take it sometimes for the leadership debuff as well.
Because they usually have low leadership, so they'll wear it off and then you can just chase them off.
Yeah, isn't a Carnosaur like 54 leadership?
Arachnarok's only 55.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you have a low leadership faction, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you just have like.
If you wanted to make that unit of trolls run away even faster.
Yeah, if you know a faction has like expensive units with low leadership, then like Lizardmen or like
Stone trolls.
Greenskins.
Yeah, greenskins. Yeah.
Then it can be
or
quite
you
useful.
don't have the best AP missiles.
And you don't have any other way to reduce armor.
Yeah.
Like this is probably like the last way you reduce armor. Like when you run out of all other ways to reduce armor, you use this. You have no Sunder armored units. You have no Soul Blight. You bring this instead. And you know, it does the job. Next, the Penundrum. What is the names in this spell lore? The Penundrum Pendulum. The the Pendulum. The Pendulum is a wind spell that does really good damage, and it has a pretty quick cast time. Only 13 winds of magic. It's probably one of the best spells in the game.
Yeah, it's the reason why you bring shadows.
Yeah, most of the time. This is probably the reason you bring shamans. It's the new blind destroyer. It's very, very up there with Burning Head in terms of the best wind spell in the game, or even best direct damage spell in the game. It's up there. 13 winds of magic, and you can like, if your opponent likes a new blind, you can like delete. You can cut their front line in half.
Yeah, you could delete like 2 whole units.
Yeah, if you line it up right, you can usually reliably kill at least a unit's worth of health because you can hit 2. I think for most infantry units, it'll do about half their health if it hits all the models.
Because they've nerfed it down where you can't kill the models anymore outright.
No, but it still does like half the health, which is pretty
still
good.
Massive.
And overcasting it increases the damage even more, and increases the AP damage specifically, so it's more reliable against the higher armored targets. Which, I mean, it already is. Burning Head's always better against like lowly armored targets. Pendulum works against like all infantry pretty much.
Yeah.
The damage is pretty constant when it comes to using Pendulum.
The only downside is that very elite infantry tend to have enough health to tank it.
Yeah, tank it. Yeah.
Be fine.
But
anyways.
really, really good wind spell, and again, it appears really quickly. You usually can't move out the way of it.
Yeah.
Like, if the unit's already moving, you can. But if it's stationary.
If the person's already watching the unit and they see it and they
if they're lucky and they immediately click out, then you can get good with it. But
you can
need to get lucky with your timing.
You have to be fast.
Yeah.
Or your infantry has to be fast too.
Oh yeah, or if it's cavalry. That also works. Which, I mean, Pendulum still even works against cavalry. Does good damage against that as well.
Yeah. Next up on the chopping block.
Next, out comes Mind Razor.
When you need that perfect shave.
Yeah, when you need that perfect shave, use Gillette. No, that's what I said.
Ooh, I love this spell. Not many people knew it gave magic damage.
Yeah. Really?
When you got an ethereal opponent and you really want to be like, but what if you die?
Yeah, this does also increase base damage, so this is the perfect spell to literally delete an ethereal unit if you want to. But then again, Pendulum would also probably do that pretty well, unless it's a Banshee.
But also 50% on both base and armor piercing damage is massive.
Is a lot. That is definitely a lot, yeah.
That is a lot of damage. You use that on a single unit that's fighting in the front line. They have good stats.
Yeah, you gotta rely on it. Already has a lot of base weapon damage, so it's like Forsaken or something. I know you can't get Shadows with Chaos, but can you get Shadows with Chaos? We can.
Yes.
We can.
Yeah, you can. Of
I
course
don't know why I just never bought it, because I'm always just like, I'll bring Fire.
Yeah, you can bring Archaon instead.
Or I'll bring Pigeon.
Yeah.
Like Shadows is probably the last one I bring.
Well, no, I bring Shadow sometimes. But
It's
yeah,
usually
using that on a unit of goddamn Chaos Spawn is the most hilarious shit ever.
Oh yeah, that's like 200 weapon strength.
Yeah, they get like 240 weapon strength. It's obscene.
Just cleave through stuff, and they have the magic damage, which has its situations. And it's 32-second duration. Overcasting it gives it an area of effect as well, just so you can give it on multiple units if you really want to go crazy. Although that is 16 winter magic, which I mean you really want to make sure you get your full of. So if you have a chaos spawn box and you drop this, then they kill everything.
Yeah, they could kill.
But they already did kill everything, so it's awkward. Yeah.
It's just they kill it more effectively now.
Yeah. Pretty good. It's the magic damage has become less good now. Lore of Death has its magic damage, and also Pendulum was already pretty good at killing magic ethereal units.
But here's the thing: the Mind Razor is still really good because of how much damage buff it gives. For what? Like, if it's on a single unit 9, put that on a Lord with high damage, and you got yourself a real damaging Lord. Or
yeah,
even
a lot of
like
weapon strength.
Or even like in the case for Chaos, like an Exalted Hero on a Manticore that's got like what 400 damage.
Yeah, and you put Mark of Corn on it already, and then you give it this as well.
Yeah, and he's gonna do a lot of damage to whatever he catches.
Yeah, there is the situation where it's a good 32-second duration, which is nice. What tends to happen is you want to use this on expensive units with already good stats. You don't want to use this on something with terrible stats, because otherwise you're not making good use of the weapon damage usually.
Yeah.
You want to use this on something with a lot of melee attack, and typically when it comes to really good units, they're usually not the fastest. And what can happen is you can sometimes just run away from the unit that's been buffed if you keep an eye out, because I think it has an effect on it like constantly that's pretty bright, like you can see it in the casting effect. It's kind of hard to miss, so you can usually just run away from the unit typically.
That's why if it's a Chaos Spawn, they're going to catch the
Yeah, the Chaos Spawn will definitely catch it. Definitely units where it works really well with, like Chaos Spawn or Forsaken, because they already have the speed.
I guess you could use it on Cavalry before they hit their charge.
Yeah, Cavalry as well, because I was just using them to cycle charge with it as well. That would do a lot of damage.
Or bounce between units.
But don't think, I'll use it on my big expensive infantry unit, because they'll just run away from it.
Yeah. Unless it's dwarves, then they won't run away from it.
You run a speed, run away.
You don't want magic damage.
Magic damage against dwarves.
Yeah, they'll It'll negate pretty
like
much.
half the damage you get.
Yeah, you're basically just giving it a 25% buff.
Yeah.
Not as good.
Anyways, on to the big bad vortex.
The Pit of Shades, what a nice solid vortex it is. It is very in line with the Shadows lore. If you hadn't noticed, everything in the Shadow lore is very solid. And Pit of Shades is a solid vortex because it doesn't move. So you can just reliably do something.
It's been nerfed. I know it's been nerfed to a point where like sometimes it just doesn't do any damage.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot of damage anymore. But it's still pretty good. Assuming you get off in those right situations. Pretty good.
If you got a big blob with like 2 or 3 units in it, it'll get its value back, I guess.
But yeah. It's very consistent, does good damage against armor, as it says in the spell description.
Yeah.
And it does also do that whole suck-in animation, so it can just work as well as a net as well. I think the best situation for this is usually if there's a big blob of cavalry, because typically when cavalry charges in, it doesn't...
Hold cavalry still.
It stuns them, though, doesn't it?
Not really. It's not like...
does that whole... it's not as good. It doesn't trigger the stun effect as much, but it does...
It's not the black vortex that Skaven have.
No, it doesn't trigger it as much as that, but it does trigger it,
because, well, no, I don't even think it triggers it, because even cavalry can just run away.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it applies to single entities, so I seem to only notice it on...
Because infantry, if it was the fact that it's like, if it was as often as it does with infantry, as you see in the animation,
yeah, where
it
it
should
just
be
sucks
like
them in.
every second. It should, but we could probably test that.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it. But I think usually when I get the most value out of this is when, because cavalry will blob up in a specific way usually when it charges into something, especially if it's trying to go after like a mortar unit or something, and then you can just put a shade and kill like the entire unit. Or at least keep it in place for a bit by surround it and close off its escape routes. Overcasting it increases the damage by quite a significant amount if I remember rightly. I don't know how it is after the nerf, but assumedly it means it's going to do a lot more damage. I mean, it's 20 winds of magic, I'd certainly hope it does a lot more damage. But I'll have to test it out actually, seeing as that is the end of the spellbook. Let's go ahead and have a look. Bring some Chaos Knights then.
I already did.
Cool. I'll bring... Actually, I'll do this.
Are you gonna swamp me with gores?
Actually, I can make best gores just to comparable.
Okay.
Don't need anything special for a Lord. I don't think there's any mana. Oh, actually, there is Arcane Conduit under Caster Lord.
Yeah.
I need to turn the funds up. Where's the funds? Ultra.
How are we turning up the funds?
Just because...
How many casters do you need?
I need all these daggers. Jaded daggers. I need to get as many spell recharges as possible.
Yeah, because he might run out of magic.
And technically speaking, it's not breaking unit caps. Thanks to CA.
Yeah.
Classics. Oh, there's also Sacrificial Rod. So much magic. And what other units should I bring? I'll bring some Centaurs. I'm going to turn up the funds even more. Yeah, that's a lot. Okay. And what other spells could I use? I could also... What's got a high weapon strength? The Blood Behemoth. And what else?
Maybe Minotaurs. Minotaurs have good damage.
Yeah, see how that does. How that does on Minotaurs as well. Oh, what's got? I thought Great Weapons had more weapon strength than regular. Apparently not. That doesn't make any sense.
They normally do, yeah.
Put a giant as well. Okay. Make sure you have a ton of infantry and like to test them.
Okay, yeah. I just realized how much money you gave.
Right, I'm ready.
You
It's
just took the last unit because you like it.
Shush you. I don't. I do, but I don't think it does very well. I want to like it, but it doesn't do well, so I can't like it.
It's not overpowered.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Cool animations. Looks cool. Feels cool. It's not good though.
Too bad it's irreparably broken and gonna get nerfed, and then everyone will be like, "Why is it so awful now?" It's like, no, it's not awful. It's just not broken.
Disgusting. Too. And it's the behemoth.
Yeah, it is just.
Come to think of it, why would I take the Blood Bomb Behemoth over just a giant?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you could bring a giant instead.
And it's probably more
The only
consistent.
Yeah, it is more
Has more
consistent.
health.
It does. And the only thing I think Gorgon has is that it has regeneration.
And it has speed, but that's about it.
It's got that blender animation that can like wreck infantry.
Mm-hmm.
But giants kind of have that with their big stomp.
That and they just last
And
longer
how
because their health.
Yeah, and also the other thing is that, well, because of their stomp and the fact that units kind of get like blob right up against it really easily,
Mm-hmm.
they just stomp and then lose half the unit. It's like, ho 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 ho.
It was me, too.
It was I, Dio.
Good times.
Anyways, yes.
What are you up to, like us? What are you doing?
Yeah, and for Lars, I've got to start getting into psionics if I want to be accurate.
Oh yeah, this is the first time I've ever gone synthetic, so... Is there anything I
Yeah.
should know, specifically?
Well, make sure you have a lot of energy.
Okay.
Nope. Shh. Try it. Let him try it.
Okay.
The last time he tried to be synthetic, Kane was doing the ring world and just...
Yeah, I don't think I even got to cybernetic with that one.
Yeah. He never even got that far.
No, I already have got cybernetics in this game, though, so that's nice.
Yeah. Kane just kicked Willow around.
Now, the tables have turned.
Actually, it was me again.
It was me. Dear.
Pretty sure I was kicking Willow around.
No, legit. Kane was like would just bully him with his ring world and how much resources he was getting. For the entire fight. Maybe after, maybe. Huh?
I repaired that ring world.
I did that. I raised that boy.
I don't know. Oh wait.
Look how cool he looks. It's the same. He's garbage. He's not garbage. It's just missiles. There's a missile-heavy meta, and he's out of place.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hey, how do the peasant archers hit more accurately than fucking high elves? Am I right, guys?
Oh no, they're dying. Yeah, I don't like how accurate archers are. They really need to turn that down a bit.
Yeah. Remember when archers used to hit their own units when you shot into the back of an infantry unit?
Mm-hmm. I think accuracy should definitely scale on cost.
Yeah.
Like System of Avalon, sure, they should be accurate.
Sure, yeah, I expect them to be super accurate.
In fact, I find them less accurate than regular archers. Maybe that's just because I can see the missiles a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's I want to test this pendulum, but I don't want to delete all your infantry.
Oh, okay. You want me to spread out a bit?
Just so.
Oh yeah, I should probably tell them to stop.
I'll go through here. Just stand still quickly. I'll just do 2 great weapons units. So let's see how this does. This is a pendulum going down. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, that's been toned down a lot since last time. They used to take out like half the unit's health. Now it takes out about a quarter of each, maybe.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good hit along the center of the units.
Yeah, let's see if I'll test an overcast on the other side. Test an overcast on the halberdier variant.
Okay, for a second I thought you had put it on like ultra-sized models.
No, it's ultra funds. You can
Try it on the Marauders. Because I think
it doesn't do the best if you're not like in a straight. If you're engaged in melee, it does way better.
Yeah, because they're much more clogged up. Yeah. Let's see overcast on these ones.
So you want to wait if they're not melee.
So yeah, that overcast took it back basically to how its damage used to be. I think that's how the old damage of the non-overcast used to be.
So I'm gonna bring these swords out forward, and I'm gonna charge those gores and then ungores, and then you try and use it on them when they're all stacked up on it.
Okay.
See how much damage it does. Just
Overcast
a
or
regular
regular? Okay.
A regular.
Back. Doggo 3.
Yeah. Make sure don't run the Gorgon or the Minotaurs in, because that'll break them formations.
Gores versus Mirror Guard. I don't like the Mirror Guard's chances.
Don't like my odds here.
Okay, let's see here. So yeah, you can see they're so stacked up. And then... So yeah, that did way better. Way better. That's like half their health. I think Pendulum is to be exclusively used on either like units like archers, like high elf archers, are already really tightly packed, so you tend to always
Yeah,
hit that
they're
at
always
once.
really thin, so you can always reliably
Hit
wipe
all their
out the
models,
unit
or just use them
currently
on models that are like in melee, like those mirror guard just were.
Yeah.
Let's
Mirror Guard's
also
still one.
take a
That's
look
okay.
at a miasma on what should I use it on?
Just on the Marauders because of the least armor.
Marauders. Okay, yeah.
so
Armor
you
doesn't
can see
scale
how
with
much
miasma. So let's see. They started off at 7,020 health.
Yeah.
It's pretty
But
good.
they're losing 60 health a tick.
That's about 1,000. More than 1,000. About 1,100 on Marauders.
Drop another one on the Forsaken and see how much that does.
Yeah, it's different model number, so I think it will change. But let's see how much it scales.
Yeah. Well, it's the damage per tick we're looking at.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, then do it on
Well,
the
if it's
Chaos
60 for 90, then you could assume that it's how much is that per model? It's like 0.6 recurring per model.
Yeah.
Let's see if that scales. Okay, actually, no, I'll do it on the Forsaken because that'll be easier to read. Let's see how much that's doing per tick.
Yeah, that's
80?
yeah. It looks
No,
like
50? 50. No, it did 60 then. It did less consistent.
Yeah, because it does around like 45 to 55.
But if you look at the damage, like that did less than 1,000, so you definitely did more damage per model. But when it comes to the 90 model Marauders, we did more damage in that scenario.
Yeah.
So that's probably
So, yeah.
the more models, the more damage you do, I think, when it comes to
Let me bring
miasma.
some Chaos Warriors over. Chaos Knights, I mean.
Oh yeah, for a pendulum.
Not for a pen.
I mean
but
for
rather
Pit of
use
Shades.
Or a Pit of Shades, sure, yeah. I was wondering it's like if Miasma would just do no damage to them because they're such low model count.
I'm just going to charge
But
these
yeah.
in to charge their thing. Sorry about this. Oh, this is like typical single player Doom stack at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just this, because it's Tuskors as well.
So basically, Bullock tries to play all of his games.
This is how I play all my games. This is how I play. This is typical quick battle. Yeah, let's test this pendulum. I mean, this Pit of Shades.
That guy doesn't even have the dagger on, and you're sending him in.
Who? My lord? Of course he doesn't. Oh, this one doesn't. I don't know why this one had it. I forgot about that one. Alright, I'm going to put a Pit of Shades then down on your Chaos Knights. We'll see how much damage it does, and also see if you can move them out.
Yeah.
Okay, move them out. Are they moving? Is that them trying to...
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
look.
slowly moving.
No, yeah, they keep getting that
so
stun
that's
animation, it
just an
seems.
animation. Alright.
So there they are getting pinned down. So it works pretty well as a net, and that's like half their health as well.
Yeah.
Compare that to Pendulum, that did way better
But
than
also
Pendulum
it's
did.
a 5-second thing, and also the problem is you can't run in and stab them either.
Yeah, it
You
does
can
have a
probably
wind-up.
shoot them.
Yeah, it does have, I think that's why it's a perfect situation is once they've already charged in, because then it makes because they have to like turn around, and then usually in that time the cast can go off.
Yeah, or you just drop it behind it, and it's like, where are you gonna go?
Yeah, you're stuck now, son.
I'm gonna try something. Where's the... I'm gonna charge... I wanna see how much damage I can possibly do with Chaos Knights with Melkor's Razor.
You're gonna give. Oh, you have a Shadows Caster as well. Smart. So you see those Chaos Knights go from 46 to 70 weapon strength. Let's see them charge into Gorge. Let's see if the cavalry is still terrible. Even with miasma, let's see if heavy cav is still terrible. I don't... Okay, why are they taking more damage? Okay, it's pretty similar amount of damage just got taken.
Yeah.
That's just showing the state of cavalry more than the state of Mind Razor. How did Goreherd do more damage than it's like this? I think in terms of health they did do less, but in terms of percentage it's pretty similar.
Because why does the game need to be fixed if it can be more broken?
How much are Lancers?
Yeah.
Remind me, Psycho?
Huh?
How much are Lancers? Chaos Knights Lancers?
1,600.
1,600.
No, 1,500 a pop, yeah.
Goreherd are 600?
550, I think.
No, that's 600.
No,
It's
it's
shield
600, I
variant
think.
at
I don't know.
550. Okay, so that's not
Yeah.
evenly balanced amount of damage in the slightest.
The only way cavalry can be useful is if nothing is charging at them. Like,
Yeah, there's no counter charge.
Yeah, there's no counter charge at all. You just have to hope that they don't. Like,
Actually, I have a bug that I want to test once we're done with the magic law.
okay.
Charge into my best scores with your fresh unit. I just want to show full off.
These are only basic Chaos Knights, so
Oh, okay, so it still works.
they'll have superior melee defense, so they might be able to take it. You want me to use Melkor's? Oh,
No, just regular charge. Just regular charge. Just want to show off the state of affairs of cavalry. Yeah, they'll take more damage.
Like ridiculous. Like the only thing I can think of is running these guys in at the same time as that's happening from the side to kind of maximize the amount of damage I can pull off.
Even then, with a counter charge, look how much damage they just took.
Yeah. And try and like.
Yeah, the best case scenario is like you charge them when they're already in melee, so they can't really counter charge. But that's like best case scenario.
Oh my god, this is so broken.
Stop looking at meta strats.
Also, there's a huge stream delay.
Nah, it happens.
Oh wait, how are those knights still kind of stuck in there?
This Bestigor
The
is
bright
strong.
Strong, yeah. I don't even know how they're even stuck in there. Look how that unit is running after like the random flayed units over there. The only bright side is the Chaos Knights have like fear.
Yeah, although Bestigor's on immune psychologist, so it's actually hating them right now.
Yeah. It's just how much damage they've collectively managed to do. Oh.
Gonna go ahead and give
I
Mind
can
Razor
actually
to
use
them.
the-
Gonna give Mind Razor.
Actually,
No, not onto
I
the
was gonna
Bestigor
use-
unit. Stop!
gonna use
Stop!
a
Don't give it to the
Feeling Foe on it.
Bestigors. Oh. Yeah, use a Feeling Foe on it. So there you go. Its melee defense is now at 19. Its melee attack's at 55, but it does have that anti-large of 30, so that's not really going anywhere.
And then also I can fly over and do this. Bada bing, baba booa.
I hit your own Chaos Knights.
Yeah, I know. It's awful.
Acceptable casualties.
Acceptable casualties.
Then again, this is best case scenario for the Gorgon because it's melee. It's not getting shot at.
Oh wait, lowering its armor by 30.
Oh, what was
40
his armor
seconds.
before? 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's basically... Actually, I want to see if I can get an overcast pit of shades just to see how good that is.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Actually, like, square up a chosen unit, maybe?
Okay.
Chosen are comparable
there
to
we go.
cavalry in terms of their health pools.
Yeah.
And their model counts. Just gonna use everything into that thing. So squad chariot, squad mobilize. Regenerate your batteries. Are Gorgon still going? Yeah, I'll be going for a
Yeah,
while
the
probably.
Gorgon's almost dead, so. But that was with like 2 fairly depleted Chaos Knights. I'll probably run away the Dragon now because it's not going to win against the Gorgon by itself. Yeah, but as we saw, the sad state of affairs of
Elf heavy cav, yeah, not good.
oh, those are Forsaken. That's my Chosen. We use Chosen great weapons. Oh no, there are Chosen ahead there.
Need more magic. Oh, it just got checked. That's a lot of damage. Granted, I don't know why it was standing still for so long. Was this Chosen as well? Jesus, these are tearing
Yeah,
apart
this is
Chosen.
Chosen.
What would
Yeah.
win, Pig Chariot or Chosen of the Gods? You would have thought these would like wrestle the entire chariots, like Chosen, with just like one Chosen should be able to fight a chariot 1v1, but no. It's not even close.
Unfortunately, making why fix a game when you can break it more?
Let's see, these versus halberds. Now, in this situation, you'd think the Tuscans would get destroyed, especially. Look how much damage those chosen are taking. Look how much damage they have 56 melee defense. Look at the chosen. They're dying. Look how little health they have left.
That's the saddest part.
Look at them. They're just getting completely demolished.
This should not be happening. Even like with this many chariots, this shouldn't be happening.
It's disgusting.
It's absolutely
That unit's been
disgusting.
wiped out.
So are you gonna actually use your spell?
I'm trying to. I still don't have enough magic. I need to regenerate more. More.
You want me to just use a pit of shades on myself?
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't work, wouldn't it? Should have just done that. Oh, make sure it's overcast.
Yeah, I can overcast it. I have magic for that because I have this thing called Arcane Conduit.
Yeah, I have this thing called Jagged Dagger.
Okay, guys, I'll be off for today.
Alright, so
see
you
you
want me to
later.
overcast? You want me to overcast a pit of shades on
On your
Chosen?
chosen, yeah. I want to see how much damage that's what it does. So they start off with 7,800 health.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's 500 a tick, almost.
That's pretty good. It's still going. Still going. No, yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, yeah, if that was a cavalry unit, it'd be very dead. Any cavalry unit would be very dead after that. So yeah, that's I'd say it's probably worth overcasting because it doesn't increase the duration or anything. So you can like delete a cavalry unit for that. Probably worth it. Let's just see. Send those Chaos Knights. I mean, they're definitely gonna die from this, but I can overcast one now. So
Okay.
I just want to see how quickly they die from it. It's like say they got stuck in melee. Oh no! Quick, we need to pull them out. Oh no! It's too late. Oh no!
Oh no.
Yeah, that's pretty good damage. You notice the damage ticks drop down a lot when there's fewer models, but
Well, no, they have the same amount of models. They were still.
well, no,
full.
because all the models die after as the spell progresses,
Oh,
the
yeah.
damage rate decreases. All right then. Well, that's probably it for today. I'll finish this off by wiping
All
out
right,
the
let's
rest of
see
the
if I
army
can-
with just Tuskors.
No, I'm gonna blob in all those boys on those Tuskors and see if
I
that
think
works.
you can kill the Tuskors. Okay, there's your challenge. You have to kill the rest of the Tuskors. Actually, land your dragon. I want to see how Tuskors do against a dragon.
1 second. Wait, did it? I
Did it
told
bug
it
out? Yeah, those
to
breath
breathe
spells.
fire.
They're rough. It's a rough time for them. Land it. I want to see Tuskors versus Chaos Dragon. Pig. This is okay. You killed like one of them, but get in there. He's dead. That was the prime
Yeah,
Chaos
and Army
Sorcerer.
lost this, even though
Chosen of
Chosen.
Zinch just got eaten by pigs.
Yeah.
That is
Like,
dumb.
it killed it in one hit, but then once all of them charged in, again, Tuskor chariots are completely broken.
Yeah, they
apparently.
do way too much damage. Let's take a look at some of those damage values actually on those casters. I can only imagine.
Or about on that Vestigor unit.
Oh yeah, ooh, let's have a look. So 2,300, 1,400, 1,700, 1,600, 1,900, 1,400, 1,100. Pretty good. Pretty
Yeah,
good.
And the Vestigor got like 1,100, but that's
Yeah.
only because it was getting cycle charged from two
I mean,
sides.
no, that's the value back already.
Yeah, it already got its value back, and it's like, and the neither unit of knights got their value back, even though, well, they did do a bunch of damage to the gore herds, but
Mhm.
that's it. And that's only with some magical help. Again,
Yeah, with the magic help, that's
like, well,
good times, isn't it?
why bring cavalry, right?
Alright then, well that'll be the end of today's session. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you again next week. With more magic. Goodbye!
Yes, more magic.